All right, so we're on 4.2, solving quadratic functions using the square root method. All right, so here's quadratic, because it has a little 2 up here. Okay, so first step is get the squared value by itself. So we're going to want to get rid of this by subtraction, and we're going to get rid of this by division. Once we do that, we square root both sides. Make sure there's a plus or minus sign in your answer, which I alluded to in the first section of notes that was coming. Then solve the remaining equation. All right, so again, we want to get this by itself. So we're going to add 18 to both sides. That's going to give me 3x squared equals 60. Now we divide by 3. That's going to give me x squared equals 20. Right? Now we're going to square root both sides. That's going to undo this. And that's going to give me plus or minus, again, since we're solving, we need to put plus or minus the square root of 20. And as we've done before, we need to make sure this is simplified. So we need to look for any perfect square numbers that go into 20. And that would be 4. We're going to write that first. The 4 is going to come out. The square root of 4 is, remember, if you need to write this in radicals, that's fine. So we get x equals plus or minus, square root of 4 is 2, and the radical 5 remains. And that's our answer. All right, solid quadratic, all answers exact. Remember, exact means leave it as a radical. Simplify it, but don't turn it into a decimal. So again, we need this by itself. So we get rid of the 6 first. Now careful, this is negative 18 plus 6. So 1/3 x squared equals negative 12. Okay, it's like you had an $18 debt and you paid $6 of it back. You still owe $12. Now careful here. To get rid of 1/3, we're going to actually multiply by 3. Because 3 over 1 is the reciprocal of 1/3. That's going to give me x squared equals, and if you want to write the plus or minus here first, you can. It doesn't matter. Negative 36. We're going to square root both sides, like so. All right. And that's going to give me x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 36. Now, we talked about this in the first lesson. 36 is a perfect square, but this negative needs to come out as an I. So we have plus or minus 6i. And that's your exact answer. All right, this one's going to be a little bit different. Notice how our squared item is a binomial. Just a little bit different. It's going to add an extra step. Add 5 to both sides. We're trying to get this by itself. Okay, so that cancels. That gives me x minus 4, in parentheses, don't lose that, equals 12. We're still going to square root both sides, like so, but look at the difference here. Now instead of having x equals, we have x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. Now, we have 2 options here. We need to get x by itself, so we can move the 4 over first or simplify the 12. It doesn't matter as long as you don't combine the items. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Now look where it ends up. This is very important. It's 4 plus or minus the square root of 12. Now whatever comes out here does not get added to the 12 or subtracted from the 12. It just stays. All right? So I'm going to break it down. This is 4 and 3. Again, radical numbers. So x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2. And then radical 3. And remember, we do not combine the 4 and the 2. Okay? This is kind of like saying 4 plus or minus 2x. This is a number, and this is a number that's a coefficient of a variable. The radical 3 here is kind of like a variable. 2 times radical 3 is not just a number to add to 4. Not to mention, it's 4 plus or minus. All right? So we just leave it right there. That's our answer. All right, just a little bit more to do here. So again, we're trying to get this by itself. All right? And really, again, this is just the same thing basically as this. We need to get rid of the 21. We need to get rid of the 3. It's just instead of being x being squared, it's a binomial being squared. But we're still going to approach it the same way. So we're first off going to just subtract the 21. That's going to leave me 3 times whatever this binomial is, 2x minus 3 being squared, equals 75. Now, get rid of the 3 by division, because it was multiplication. Still, this 2x minus 3 is in parentheses. That's 25. Since it's being squared, we undo it by square rooting. And now we have 2x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 25. Now in this case, it's kind of nice because this is going to simplify to just 5. But there's a complication here. It's plus or minus 5. All right, so we actually have to do 2 problems, kind of like we did previously when we had absolute value problems. All right, we're going to say 2x minus 3 equals positive 5, and 2x minus 3 equals negative 5, just like we did with absolute value. And now we're just going to work it. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. That's going to be 2x equals 8. Divide by 2, x equals 4. There's our first answer. We're going to add 3 here. All right. That's going to give me 2x equals, this time, negative 2. And then we divide by 2. I'm going to get x equals negative 1. And there are my 2 answers. All right. Moving on. Same concept here. Only difference is here, the coefficient of the binomial is a fraction, but we've already dealt with that, so no big deal. So we're going to minus 4 on both sides. That's still going to leave me the 1/2 and the x plus 8 in parentheses squared equals negative 10. To undo this, we're going to multiply by 2 on both sides. That's going to leave me with the binomial, still squared, equal to negative 20. And then we're going to square root this. That cancels the square and gives me that. So I end up with x plus 8 out of the square root equals plus or minus, don't forget that, square root of negative 20. Now remember, if it helps you, the magic number is 4, goes in there, times 5. And if it helps you, don't forget the negative 1, because that's going to come out as the I. So that gives us x plus 8 equals plus or minus square root of 4 is 2. The I comes out, and 5 is inside. And now, last thing we need to do is get rid of that 8, so we're going to subtract it. So it's going to give me x equals, we just put the negative 8 in front of the plus minus. Again, we do not combine it with the 2i. And there you have it. And that's it.